The last thing I get to do that is a bit unique, that I haven't gotten to do before, is I get to introduce our next speaker. I hope he's ready. I don't see him back there, but we're going to start anyway. A lot of times when you hear people give introductions, they sort of run down this laundry list of achievements and accolades, right? So you'd hear somebody say, oh, our next speaker, Ryan Sitton, he's written books, blah, 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 blah. What I thought I'd do today is give you a little bit of a personal anecdote, because we don't often get to have those. I got elected Railroad Commissioner in 2015 at the same time that Dan Patrick got elected Lieutenant Governor. So we were on the campaign trail together in 2014 in both the primary and in the general. And while it's easy for us that don't get to sort of spend time one-on-one with elected officials to sort of paint them in this political light, let me tell you about a couple things I got to see about the man, Dan Patrick. This was my first time to serve in elected office. Dan had served in the state Senate for 8 years. And this was an intimidating thing for me to be a railroad commissioner. And when I would ask Dan for advice, he would always make time for me. We'd go to lunch, we'd sit down, he'd spend 30 minutes, an hour, and he would be coaching me on, Ron, here's what good public service looks like. Here's how you can navigate the landscape in Austin. And more than any other elected official I knew, Dan gave me his time to help me be better. When I interacted with Dan, the one area that I knew almost nothing more than Dan did about the world of politics, but I knew a little bit more about energy. And when I would sit with him, unlike any other elected official I knew, he would ask tons of questions. Ryan, tell me about oil prices. Tell me about energy markets. Tell me about numbers of refineries. When Harvey happened, he and I would be on the phone, and he was trying to understand. He asked great questions. You know, Dan and I are both very conservative Republican men. We don't always, I think, agree if you were to stack us up on how you might execute everything, but when it comes down to it, what I appreciate is a public servant that I know is there to serve, wants to do the job to make the state a better place, and is willing to give his time to help other people. And I'm not just seeing this from the political standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. Dan is that guy. So I'm glad he gets to close us out today. Please help me welcome Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
I've got a mic, I'm good. In September of 2008, 16 years ago this month, we had a late night call with then Governor Perry, then Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. I was in the Senate, as Ryan said, back in 2008. And the call was about the storm that was brewing and coming to us, known as Ike. And based on what the meteorologist said that day and the latest information that we had, it was probably, including all the years I've been Lieutenant Governor, now 17 years total Senate as Lieutenant Governor, probably one of the, oh, my phone's on, sorry, let me turn that off. I'm sorry, it was probably one of the toughest calls we've ever had. As I recall, I'm paraphrasing it, 16 years ago, as I recall, the storm was going to come up through Richmond and through Fort Bend County up through Katy, meaning the big wall of water was going to come up the ship channel. And studies had shown if we ever had a big surge up the ship channel, you could have water all the way up to 610. Everything from Galveston to 610 would be underwater or have 2 feet of water, 4 feet of water. Every house, every building. And there was a concern that thousands of people would die. I see Senator Taylor over there. Hi, Larry. And Senator Middleton, your great senator now, is here. Mays Middleton, I don't know where Mays is, but there you are, Mays. So you remember those days. I'm sure you had a call similar to that, Larry, in the House. There wasn't anything we could do about it. Of course, what happened, as we've now learned on storm after storm after storm after storm, even the National Hurricane Weather Center will tell you that almost every storm moves 50 to 60 miles overnight. You know, they call it the cone of uncertainty. Okay? Cone is one word, uncertainty is another. They really don't know. And that storm moved. And because the weathercasters had said, and the meteorologists had said where the storm was coming, the people on Bolivar stayed home because they thought they were out of harm's way. And the storm moved. It saved coming up the ship channel for the most part. It saved going up to 610. It saved flooding thousands of homes. But it destroyed Bolivar Island. And people lost lives. So now, since all of you are involved in the port, and Larry was one of the leaders on getting the funding for the Ike Dike. I remember you came to me, Larry, said, I need $200 million. What year was that? Do you remember? His memory's shot already. He's out of office. He doesn't remember. But when was that? 2019. Because some of the counties that are going to participate just don't have the money to match, and so we have to help those counties that don't have a lot of tax revenue. That project's going to take a long time, beyond my lifetime, probably beyond your lifetime, to be completed. But I must tell you, from a port position, we have to be very suspect of what the Army Corps of Engineers are planning, and I know you've had some discussions from experts far more knowledgeable than me, but it's a possibility if the Army Corps of Engineers gets to do what they want, it might stop a future storm coming up the channel and going to 610, but it might pretty much shut down the port. So we really have to be firm and working with the Army Corps of Engineers to be sure that the gates that they build are not going to, in essence, close off the port. It's $1 trillion industry to our economy. So it's going to be a challenge to protect both the million people that live in between and will be in the coming years for a storm that might never come, or it could come 2 weeks from now. So it's a real challenge, and it's going to be important for all of you in this room to ask questions and be involved and get educated with your association and all the groups you work with to be sure that doesn't happen. And one of the ways you get the attention of the Army Corps of Engineers is to say, we're just not going to invest any more money in this. So it's a balance. We want to protect all of those homes and businesses and all those people from that type of storm ever coming, but we also have to keep the port open. When I became lieutenant governor, I was the first lieutenant governor in history to create a port committee. Brandon Creighton was chair of that committee still, because here's what happens when you get elected to office. Whether you're a senator, a House member, lieutenant governor, everyone wants to show you what they're doing, because almost everyone doing something needs money and they want to make their pitch. And I think, if I'm correct, we have 19 ports along the coast. I'm close. Every port wanted me to come. So I learned a lot about, outside the fence, inside the fence. And obviously the Port of Houston is the biggest of all of those. So I learned a lot about that, and what I recognized is that the state wasn't really contributing any revenue to help grow our ports. And so we were the first legislature, the Texas Senate led on this, to take money out of TxDOT road funding and put it towards the ports. So I don't understand your business. I'm not an expert on really anything. I just have to know a little bit about a lot of things, and as much as I can about so many things, and as much as I can about a fewer things, like a pyramid of knowledge. But I'm committed, the Texas Senate is committed, to be sure that all of our ports in Texas thrive and do well. It's so important to our economy. I'm not here to talk politics today, but there's no question that November 5th is going to have a big impact, one way or the other, on the oil and gas industry, which will have a big impact on the port, and will have a big impact on so much. So when we go into next session, I can't tell you today who's going to be in the White House. I think I know. I can't tell you today, but that's going to be a very consequential election coming up, very consequential in how it impacts everything we do along the Gulf Coast. Whether Texas has a target on its back or Texas has someone who has our back. Because I can tell you, not being political, I'm not being political, I'm just telling you the facts, that when Trump was in the White House, Texas got everything we needed quickly, including relief from storm damage. And the last 4 years, it's been just a black hole. It's just a target on our back. So it's important. And so we'll be watching that, and we'll adjust to that as we go through legislation. I know, I have fond memories of Pasadena. I came to Houston in 1979 as a sportscaster with Channel 11. There's no one in here old enough to remember that, right? Okay. Anyone, raise your hand if you say you remember that. That means you were like 4. I left in 1984. That was a long time ago. But I came here, and every 4th of July, we would come down to Pasadena with the volunteer fire department to play a celebrity softball game. And one of the greatest moments for me coming to Texas was we were playing softball one 4th of July with the volunteer fire department, and the space shuttle flew. That's when it was on the back of a 747. Oh my gosh, what a sight that was. I always remember that, like it was, like a little kid remembers the first time they saw Santa. When you're standing there and you see the space shuttle on the top of 747, almost you can touch it. It was amazing. And I preached down at the church down here. I guess I'm a part-time preacher sometimes with Rick Scarborough. So I spent a lot of time down here. My parents lived in a country place. Spent a lot of time just in this general area. And it's just a great area of Texas. We've added close to 12 million people to Texas since the year 2000. Think about that. We had 18 million people here in Texas in 2000, and now we're 30 million. That's 12 million people. I like to say that no one ever moves to Texas. They arrive in Texas, and Texas moves into them. You get the cowboy boots. You go to your first rodeo. You finally find out what real barbecue is about. You buy a George Strait CD, or now you put it on your phone. How many of you have moved to Texas? Okay. How many of you love that you moved to Texas? There you go. We are the America that all America used to be. And Senator Donna Campbell has a great line. She's representative over in San Antonio. She has this great line that she says, we have to get it right in Texas because there's not another Texas to move to. Right, Mays? Where would you go? So we take, in the Texas Senate, on a bipartisan basis. Obviously there are disagreements between some Republicans and Democrats on certain issues, but this may surprise you. Out of 1,500 bills a couple of sessions ago, I don't have the latest numbers for last year, 99% of all legislation we passed had Republican and Democrat votes on it. The difference, we're not Washington, D.C. The difference between in Texas on those bills, there are bills that obviously Democrats are against and Republicans are for. Could be cultural bills, could be school choice, could be a number of different bills. But on the main things that we do, it's about making Texas greater. 52% of our budget is education. 52%. About 35% is health care. That's 87%. About 10% is public safety. So 97, 98% of our money, 3 items. Now we can fight over those items a little bit, but basically we all come together. It's important for you to know that. I'm a conservative Republican. I'm a partisan Republican. But we work together on the big things that make Texas great, and that's why people are coming here. If you took our budget, I didn't know I was up there, sorry. My hair was a little darker then. So let's pretend, can we take that down? I know it's kind of embarrassing. Imagine that's a budget. Imagine that's a clock, rather. So 12 is above my head, 6 is down here, 3, 9. So our budget, if you go 52%, is education is right about here. I need my big head back for just a moment. Thank you. And of that 52%, about 14% is higher ed. I know we have a lot of San Jac students here, and your great president is here with us. about 52% all education. And then you go up to there, almost to 11, and that's healthcare. And then you go 11 almost to midnight. So when you're there, and that's all the money we have. That's all the money we have. So when people want, I just want to let you know, we need more money for this, for this, for this. If we go past midnight, we have to raise your taxes. So when you hear that various things aren't funded, they are. Everybody always wants more. I get it. But our budget, that's our budget. Now, here's the great news. We've grown so fast, and it's because of business. It's because of things like the port, because of all of your industries. But we're a diversified economy today. But we have we'll have about 25 billion with a B in our rainy day fund at the end of the next cycle. 25 billion. Put that in perspective, that's more money than the other 49 states have combined, except with Alaska, who has very few people and a lot of oil money. So we have more in our savings account than all the other 49 states have combined. Last session, we had a $40 billion surplus on top of the $25 billion. Now, how did we get that surplus? Well, we got that surplus because we decided during COVID that we were not going to sit back like a lot of blue states and lock business down. We opened up along with Florida. And so when the dust finally cleared from COVID, we were already launched. So our business took off, our economy took off. And so we had that surplus because, and all of you are smart people in this room, you're all business people, when you do your budget, you do a yearly budget. If you're a manager of some division, you're given goals and you're expected to meet those goals, and you do quarterly targets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in Texas, we do a 2-year budget because we only meet in the session every other year. So imagine if I said to any of you here who are CEOs or CFOs or head of departments who have to plan a budget, I want you to tell me exactly what your revenues are going to be 2 years from now, to the dollar. It's really impossible. So our budget, last year, our 2-year budget was about, all in, $360 billion. So our controller, Glenn Hager, does a fine job. He has to forecast out, when we get there in January, coming up in 5 months, he has to give us what he thinks we're going to bring in by August of 28. If he's 5% off, $18 billion. If he's 10% off, good or bad, revenues were flat, revenues went up. So when we came out of COVID, when he gave us the last budget in January of 21, he couldn't predict we were going to go like this. He couldn't predict when COVID was going to die down. So he predicted here reasonably so that we didn't overspend. And it went like that. So that was part of the surplus. I want you all to understand kind of how, I think it's important for taxpayers and citizens and business leaders to understand how Texas works. Because we are a nation state. You know, we have almost a $2 trillion economy. We're bigger than Russia, bigger than anywhere in South. We're bigger than every country but 8 or 7 in the world. We are a nation state. And so we plan our budgets very carefully. So what happened is last session, when we had $40 billion surplus, we have passed a law that says to protect your tax dollars in your pockets and your businesses that we can't spend more than population times inflation. And inflation's been up. Biden economics. It's been up. So we couldn't spend any more than $12 billion of it by law that we passed, that you voted for in a constitutional amendment years ago. That's a good thing. So how did we spend that other money? We spent that other money with constitutional amendments that you voted on. The $18 billion property tax cut everyone in here that has a home got a $100,000 homestead exemption on your home, and your appraisals may be going up. They don't matter anymore. It's your tax bill in November which matters. I say they don't matter 99% of the time. They don't matter. When your tax bill comes out, if you go back and look at your tax bill the last 4 years, your school taxes are down about 40%. So we were able to do those things because you all voted for it. You voted to put $1 billion into a park endowment fund so we can have parklands in the future. You voted to put $5 billion into building more natural gas plants. So the way we were able to spend that money is we left it up to you to make the decision. So we're walking into this session with about another 15 billion, 20 billion surplus. It's not that our economy is kind of flat, but the surplus is because I insisted last session with our budget writers to keep $15 billion in the bank because I didn't know what was ahead 2.5 years out. So of that 19 billion, it's about 15 billion we kept and 5 billion we didn't spend on other projects that passed, but the money was never appropriated because there were disagreements between the chambers. So we are in a great place. There's not a better place to be in business than Texas, in the world. With one exception, and you had Pablo Vegas up here earlier today, I understand, our grid. We have about 85,000 megawatts of power available to us, and we set a record this summer of using all 85,000 megawatts, all of it. I mean, we had like 1,000 left over. That's all of it. Of that, about 60%, and he may have touched on some of these numbers, but I want to tell you this is the number one issue we must focus on in this upcoming session. There are lots of other big issues, but this is it. Because if you can't turn the lights on, you're out of business. If we can't turn the lights on, companies start leaving. If companies start leaving and stop coming, then the Texas miracle is gone. So of that 85,000 megawatts of power, roughly, and this is cowboy math, close, about 60% of it is renewable. Now, there's nothing wrong with renewables. We're not anti-renewables as Republicans. We're not Green New Deal people, but we're not against renewables. Wind is good, solar is good, keeps prices down, the air is clean, all that, except the wind doesn't always blow and the sun's not always out. So this whole idea that America can live off renewables it's just a fantasy. Those who want to kill the oil and gas industry and shut down natural gas plants and coal and nuclear, but they don't want to give any more permits for nuclear or coal. So it's natural gas or else. And Texas has more of it than anybody else, and it's cheap. So we put together last session, everyone said it wouldn't work. We put together a plan for $5 billion with another $5 billion backing it up, so $10 billion, that says if you'll build a natural gas plant, we will give you a 20-year loan at 3%, a 10% completion bonus, and help you on your property taxes. People said, because the Senate really drove this idea. Right, Mays? We fought it. Everyone was against it. No one will sign up. Do you know for that $10 billion we had people signed up, if we had the money and all the contracts to build new natural gas plants, was $39 billion. Because they know Texas is growing. So where are we on the grid? Well, Pablo shocked everybody about a month ago because he had told us that by 2030, I see my red lights blinking, I'll close in a moment, this is important. He told us a year ago, 2 years ago, whenever that was, that we'd need about 110,000 megawatts by 2030. So we're at 85. That's still a big, steep number to get to. But a month ago, he said we need 150. We have to double our power output by 2030. That's 6 years in legislative talk. That's 3 sessions. But it doesn't do us any good to do it in session number 3 or session number 2 because we're up against the deadline. We have to get that work done this year. That has to be our main priority. How are we going to solve that problem? And he talked about it, I'm told, a little bit, but just to drill down, the problem is we're growing fast. The biggest problem is, and we don't have enough natural gas, so that's what our focus is. Our biggest problem is data centers, crypto miners, and AI. AI we can't stop. But all of you, when you go on your computer and search something now, the energy that it takes will be multiplied by 5 times in about 3 years because you're going to get so much of a download. So whatever energy you're using now just to go do a Google search, multiply that energy push on the grid by 5. That's all 30 million of us. That genie's out of the bottle. But data centers, to give you an example, Wilmer, Texas, south of Dallas, they are becoming a data center. They're a community. They're attracting tax incentives, everything they're doing. When that's built out, it's a town of about 7,000 people, I think. They will use more power than the city of Austin. It's not sustainable. I made a quote 2 months ago, we're not the wild, wild west. Not everyone can come in here and take power off our grid. We want that business. We can be the king of that business, but they need to make contracts for their own power. They can't be coming here and taking away your power. And the crypto miners, they're making their money off selling their power back to the state of Texas and the grid. That's not a business model that's fair to you. I'll give you an example. There's a company, I think, I may get the name wrong, so I won't say the name, but they're based north of Austin. They have about 100,000 servers the size of toasters in building after building after building. They don't have to be on 24/7. So when we're in a spot, they can call, they have a contract with the ERCOT, we'll turn off and you have to pay us because we're turning off. Last year, their numbers, not mine, they made $8 million on Bitcoin. They made $32 million selling power back to us. That all has to stop. And as soon as I said that, boy, did the world come out against me. Every crypto person, every data miner. But these are just the facts, folks. We can't absorb that. So we have our hands full. Again, we can be the king. They just have to build their own power. They make a contract with someone to say they're going to supply the power. That's great. They just can't come in and take the grid. So we're really up against it. You need to be supportive of your legislature, Republicans, Democrats, House, Senate, whomever, to be sure that everybody knows this is a serious issue. We have 6 years to get to 150,000 megawatts. We're not going to make it. But we can go a long way because if we can reduce some of that, because a lot of that building 150 were the data centers, the crypto miners, and AI. So we've got to bring the consumption down. We've got to build up more plants. And that's our goal. Because you expect when you go home for your lights to come on. And in your business, you need that power. So we're going to take on that challenge. It's a new challenge, but it's important to everyone, and particularly here on the coast. Particularly here on the coast. So when I look at the 31 senators I serve with, I'm proud of all of them. We work well together. Again, we're not D.C. Yeah, we have our debates on the floor. We have our differences, and some of them can get kind of feisty. It's part of politics. But we're serious people. We all make $600 a month if you didn't know it. I think we have some San Jac students and high school students. Raise your hand. Where are you? Are they still here? In the back. Glad to have you here. Take notes. There's going to be a test tomorrow. You didn't know that if you didn't write it down. Look, here's what we need when you grow up, and now, I say grow up when you become adults, we need superstars. We need superstars. If you're a superstar, you'll never be without a job. What's a superstar? Be the first one there, the last one to leave, and help the person you work for make more money. That's a superstar. If you're a hard worker and you're helping your boss perform better, they're going to keep you, and they're going to pay you more money. It's real simple. So hit the books, work hard. There is no free lunch, but the fact that you're here tells me that you're potential leaders. So thank you for being here. So in Texas, Mays Middleton, when Larry Taylor was there, it's probably why Larry left, $600 a month. Some months I have to write a check to the state because it doesn't cover my insurance. Now, when I'm governor, acting governor as I was going borough, because the governor was in the Far East, I get his pay. I go from $20 a day to $421 a day. That's a great day for me. He called me Tuesday. Right now, he's in Phoenix, and then he's traveling the state, campaigning for the president. He said, I'll be back Saturday. I said, stay. Keep going. Keep going. I've been teaching myself to play the drums this summer. I needed some hobby. And I do it from 10 to midnight, and I have electric drums because you can put your headphones on and my wife can't hear it. And I thanked the governor when he called me Tuesday and said, hey, we had something we had to discuss. And I said, by the way, Governor, thank you for buying the best set of drums you can find. I really appreciate that. So all of us who work are doing the best we can. All of your public servants, your local elected officials, This is not an easy job, but it's the best job in the world. As lieutenant governor, we are unique in the country. Every other lieutenant governor is like a vice president, but the lieutenant governor of Texas is different. The lieutenant governor of Texas is like a majority leader. The lieutenant governor, not me, but the position, picks who the chairman of the committees are, the members of the committee, where the bills go, what bills come to the floor and get voted on. It's a very serious job, and I love it. I'm a policy wonk. As Ryan said, I ask a lot of questions. It's from my radio and TV background. I like to ask questions. But we don't worry, none of us worry about this. We knew the deal for $600 a month. We knew that deal. And one of the reasons, we don't have term limits, but money term limits people out. There are a lot of people that get elected and they tell their wife or their husband, we have a lot of women now in the legislature, hey honey, this is a part-time job. And then they start missing weddings and they miss funerals and they miss graduations and they miss birthdays because we've had sessions that have gone on all year, the last 2 sessions. So I thank all of them for, and I'm proud to serve with them. Thank you for being here. I could have come out and told you a couple of good stories and had a couple of laughs, but this is a serious group. And when Ryan invited me to speak, I said, yeah, I want to come because this is a serious group in the heart of our economy, not only for Texas, particularly on the Gulf Coast, but of all of Texas and America. What we do here matters to the rest of the country. Like this plan that we did for $10 billion of loans to build more natural gas plants, I was just told before I came out here, Pennsylvania is copying our plan. What we do in Texas, we lead. So thank you for what you do. We need leaders. Remember, for all the students back there, you want to be a leader? Be a superstar. There aren't enough superstars. And I'm proud to serve you, honored to be here, and God bless you, God bless Texas, and go Texans. All right, thank you all. Bye-bye.